Press record. Press live. Hello, and welcome to the Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. The Jason Cavness Experience is brought to you by Cavness HR. At Cavness HR, we deliver HR to companies with 49 or fewer people. Cavness HR, focus on your business. We got your HR. Our guest today is Hélène Thibieroz. Helene, are you ready to be great today?
Yes.
And did I say your first name right, at least?
Not at all, but don't worry, I'm used to it.
How do you say your first name again?
Well, the H is silent. So you typically say Hélène.
Helene?
I've been called Helene. So as long as I understand it's for me, no worry.
Okay. Helene is a driven technologist and business entrepreneur who thrives on solving complex puzzles, unifying technology, business, and environment. Because of her love for technology and her strong belief that it can be successfully applied to create practical solutions to environmental problems, she created a business consulting firm, Regrow Green Tech. Helene, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me there.
And right now you're in the Bay Area?
Correct.
Well, you pretty much travel all over the place, right?
Yeah, what's interesting about green technology is you find innovation coming really from a lot of different locations. And if you think about innovation, right, innovation tends to arise when people are in need. So you find, for example, in terms of water conservation, in terms of resource conservation, great innovation coming from India. Australia, also the birth of permaculture, in terms of regenerative agriculture, in terms of again, like more regenerative solution using technology is also leading the space. So when you talk about green technology, because it touches so many domains, you can pretty much find innovation all over the world.
So that's a good point. And kind of off the subject some, like there's great people doing great things all over the world, right? It doesn't matter where you're at.
Totally agree. And that's the beauty of the world we're living in today, because you can find some small startup with very interesting technology in places that you would not necessarily expect, right? We all think about Silicon Valley as the birth of innovation, but with technology and with globalization of technology, you find extremely interesting innovation, especially in terms of environment and solution for a better future, coming from a lot of different places.
And that's the point I was going to bring up. Like these VCs, they're mainly in San Francisco, New York, Boston, like little tiny networks. A lot of times it seems like, if you're not in the Bay Area, we're not going to invest in you, right? And how do we get away from that? And now with the COVID-19 going on, they have to do Zoom meetings. It's kind of getting better, I think. But I went to a pitch competition like a month ago, and the VCs admitted like before COVID-19, they would never done a Zoom meeting, right? They would have made people fly from wherever to the office in the Bay Area, right? But I think they're missing out on all this talent in like these little towns all over the world, aren't they?
Well, it didn't take 5 to 10 years to build Silicon Valley, right? If you think about the birth of Silicon Valley, there was 4 founders, passionate about driving innovation, driving technology. And over the years, Silicon Valley became this really large hub for investing, innovation, and so on. Truth is, Silicon Valley tend to have some very specific rules about investing. They tend to invest in specific key technology. They tend to look at metrics that are really extremely focusing on growth, specific amount of growth. So for very early stage company, if you're not like saying you're a green technology company and you're trying to find a solution for like waste, for example, that may not be aligned with the key focus of Silicon Valley, and that's just what it is, right? And you may not be at the point where you have generated enough income to get attention. So I think, a good approach in life, in my opinion, is to be kind of like constructive and collaborative. Silicon Valley has definitely a very large amount of resource that people still go through. If you're a very early stage, and if you're in an area which differs from the main technology line that Silicon Valley invests in, maybe you're better off looking at other startup ecosystem in the world where the perception and the mindset are maybe different.
Yes. Your company is a B corporation. What is a B corporation? I don't think most people know what that is. They've heard of LLC, C corporation. What is a B corporation?
Well, there's 2 different types. legally, we are a benefit corporation. There is B Corp, benefit corporation, and there is a traditional corporation, and there is different business law and tax code around it. So when we started We Grow Green Tech, our objective was to really articulate the fact that we're not solely after growth, we're about impact as well. We have a mission statement. Basically, we want, in the same time we grow business, we want to grow impact. And a benefit corporation is a traditional corporation, so follow the same legal rules, but it's also tagged with the concept of a mission statement. So every year, you basically have to prove to your shareholders that you have executed on your mission. And I think a B Corp is the next level where you have additional legal statutes that you have to get. Like the largest B Corp is Danone. They have taken a lot of initiative to be environmentally friendly. You find more and more. So the concept of B Corp is really something that is quickly emerging. I was part of a platform in Austin, for example, Naturally Austin. They're trying to push more and more small companies to become P Corp, to adopt environmental practices, sustainable practices. So I think it's something you're going to see more and more. Benefit corporation is still, depending on the state you live in, is still has not been fully matured. Like in the state of California, for example, laws keeps evolving every year on what is exactly a benefit corporation. But to simplify, a benefit corporation is a corporation with a mission statement. You're just not developing just a solution for growth and to make money. There's an impact, there's a mission statement behind it. And it can be social, it can be environmental, right? Like you have different type of benefit corporation.
From your point of view, is being a B corporation making it easier or harder to build your company?
I think, from a tax standpoint, from a legal standpoint, it is not, at that point, we haven't found to be a benefit corporation extremely efficient in terms of legal or tax protection because the laws have not been fully developed yet. It's more we're doing that from a moral and ethics standpoint because we really strongly believe about pushing both impact and growth. I think moving forward, you're going to see more and more probably regulation around benefit and benefit corporation allow you to kind of make some claim, maybe have some specific tax deduction. It's not really the case today. But I think if you think about food, for example, food and beverage, anything that relates to consumer, right? And Danone is a great idea, for example. Being a B Corp, when you see an emerging trend in consumers, like the latest generation, they're going to buy only if they trust the product. The Millennium Corporation, they buy if they can find fact that justify that it is a good product. The next generation, the trend is more about we buy because we trust the product, because the same culture, because this company is doing the right thing. So, as the consumer evolved, right, at the more and more demographics change, I think you're gonna see a change also in terms of company. Like they're probably gonna have to evolve to take more to become more sustainable, to have legal structures that include a piece about impact, about what are we doing for this planet, because consumers are going to push for it.
So what makes a company a green tech company? I'm sure someone just can say, hey, I have a tow truck company and I'm a green tech company, right? Well,
potentially you could, right?
Yeah, they could, yeah.
Because I mean, like when I introduced, when I call this company We Grow Green Tech, it's really funny because I will go talk to a lot of people and they will always think, oh, you're in clean tech being renewable energy, solar. And green technology is a sector that is really large. It's a sector, if you can see green technology, that's any technology that remediates to a problem that we have introduced to our environment. So under green technology, suddenly it's not only about renewable energy. Today we have so many environmental challenges that we're facing. We have a food supply that is not sustainable. We have too much carbon in the air. We have too much plastic everywhere. We have a soil that has been entirely degenerated. The United Nations is estimating we have only 60 years of topsoil left. And after that, kaput, no more food. So that's what I think it's a fascinating place because green technology is touching so many sectors. Right? The way we eat today, for example, entirely unsustainable. we have developed a food system entirely around the meat industry. Why did we do that? Because when we take this decision 50 years ago, it was very profitable. That was the way we could really start moving profit really quickly. So we start orchestrating an agriculture system around the meat system with the concept of single crop, not diversifying. And so that slowly came up with degeneration of the soil, use of more and more pesticide, using way more natural resource than we could, meaning that we depleted more and more our planet instead of regenerating. And so all of this, there's this book called The Donut Economics, which actually explained the principle in a beautiful way, meaning that we've pushed growth for many decades, and it serves the United States extremely well. It made it the powerful country that it is today. But we don't have infinite resource. Now we're starting to reach the point where we can't push it further. It's about time to bring solution to make things more efficiently, right? That's where digital technology take place. Create regenerative solution, create a circular model economy. So all of these concepts that are slowly emerging are going to be key in the next decades.
So you talk about some very complex problems.
Correct.
Let's suppose you have the power to fix one, like magically just take care of one problem, but just one. Which one problem would you say you'd want to take care of and fix?
So you see, when I started the company, there's things that I really care about, right? And we tend to work on things that we really care about. However, like if you think about all the problems we're facing today, right? You have the United Nations has released sustainable goals. The sustainable goals were established by hundreds of global thinkers that decided this is what we want to do. This is what we should do as a nation, right? So where we have to work has already been defined. What needs to happen now is a practical implementation. And it's not one solution, it's hundreds and thousands of solutions that needs to be developed. So when you look at it that way, right, it's not one person's job, that's a country's job, that's the nation's job, that's different people working on different solutions. So we tend to look at, because we're a business and we're really strongly focusing on impact and growth, right, financial growth, we tend to look at market when there is large opportunity, and we tend to also look at where market is already right for it, right? Like there is, like in terms of, for example, plastic, right? There's a lot of change, there's new material that needs to happen. It's a very complex ecosystem. So these areas that are going to have very long cycles, some that are going to have shorter cycle based on customer traction that you see. So the strategy is to really look at, if you really want to be efficient, first of all, it's not about fixing the whole thing because it's too much work, but that's identifying key pieces, for example, in the supply chain or for a specific problem where you can really start making a small impact. Because the way we're going to fix this problem is by, like it's like a little drop, each drop in the ocean counts, right? It's by like fixing, going at a very engineer approach, going to take a problem, fixing it, and then kind of like moving to the next solution. So that's kind of our approach is being an engineer, my approach is very practical. It's like, okay, finding the problem that I can do something about it, right? There's a lot of things that I wish I could do, but if it takes too long, if it's too complicated, then I'm not gonna go into it.
I think there's a perception out there that if you're pro-environment, you have to be anti-business. If you're pro-business, you have to be anti-environment. Can't you be both? Can't you be pro-environment and pro-business? Isn't there a way to do that?
Oh, this is a very interesting book. I will have to find you the name. I don't have it right now. From a guy that has been pushing green technology as business. And it's exactly what he faced like for decades. Especially in the United States. It seems that if you care about the environment, and I've seen that talking to people, right? The first reaction that we get, oh, she's kind of nice, but yeah, right? So it's like you're a tree hugger. And I think that was true to some extent, because I did, through all the work that I did, meeting with other companies, I found passionate people that love the environment, but sometimes they tend to miss practicality or having the foot on the ground, right? Like say, how do we approach it from a business standpoint? But what you see today, which is really fascinating, is I'm meeting more and more extremely savvy business people that have quit very prestigious position, extremely skilled. They decided, I'm going to go tackle this problem and I'm going to make it a business and I'm going to grow this business. And that's extremely moving. When you hear these people's story, people that are educated, very successful, they decided they're going to, left a 6-digit salary behind, very comfortable position to go tackle a problem by creating a company. So more and more today, what you see is an emergence of solutions that are practical, that are using leading technology, that have a clear path to market with large opportunity, with a very strong team. And that's I think, an evolution that I've seen in the last 10 years. You're really starting to add extremely talented people working on green technology. And so that's going to make a lot of difference, like moving forward.
How do you measure the impact that you're making with you and your company?
So it's really interesting. The concept of impact investing is, I don't come from finance. I come from engineering, but I really start looking into impact investing with my business partners that come from finance a few years ago. It's a very complex, ambitious project because it involves including a lot of parameters, either social or environmental parameters at many layers. We tend to simplify this approach by working with company, and I'm actually working on a panel on impact investing and green technology, where you could identify, somehow simplify impact metrics to be able to articulate the direct correlation between growth and impact. I worked, for example, in the past with this little startup called Washe. Unfortunately, we didn't make it. The California experienced a 7 months rain nonstop, and the concept of the Washe was to be automated waterless car wash. So the more car you wash, you're using a solution with no water, the more water you save. We were doing quite well, and suddenly we had 7 months of rain, so no business for 7 months, and that was enough to kind of like counteract the company growth. But the principle was very interesting, right? It was the more you could articulate the impact easily, because each time you wash a car, you generate, let's say, $10 in revenue, right? For each car. Well, you're saving between 40 to 50 gallons of water in average. So certainly, like articulating an impact specifically to an investor that is looking at, hey, I want to make money, but I also, with my money, I want to be able to make an impact. That become an interesting value proposition, easy to understand, right? And there's more and more companies, so I've been starting to work with this company in the East Coast. They articulate impact metrics for startups. So I've been working with a couple of startups that have delivered impact metrics for the investors. So I think it's something that we're pushing, with Grow Green Tech, platform, the concept of articulating not only growth metrics, profit, but also the concept of what you impact. And it should be something that people can understand, right? I all believe in, if it's too complicated, we live in a world right now, especially with COVID-19, or things are getting to be overly complicated. So if you work on things that are too complicated, your chance of success are going to be like close to none, right? So it's about simplifying, finding technology where you can articulate the concept of impact in a simple way, because it's directly correlated to the growth, to the profit that your company can make, and kind of go with it.
So how do you balance the impact you're making between I'm sure like you want to make a certain type of impact, your consumers, you'd make it maybe another type of impact, and your board of advisors maybe a different type of impact. How do you balance all the different wants and needs from everyone?
At the end of the day, right, like money is still the main driver. Profit is the main driver. So we're not in the space now when it's like 50-50. So we're looking at a company where profit is there. You can make a large profit, and we articulate, and it has to have an impact. But the main driver being still profit, you have to first pick companies that you think are going to be extremely successful, articulating the impact around it, and move from there. And I think as we as the concept of impact investing keeps growing, more and more investors are understanding the concept, are educated about what a modern economy should be. If you look, for example, right, look at the financial model we have. To simplify everything, are we taking in account in this financial model of profit that we have, the resources that we're using on our planet? Are we taking in account the pollution that we generate? No, we don't. Are we taking even the impact of society? The impact that it may have on a family, all the financial models that we have that have been developed have been solely developed to represent growth. None of them are including ecological and social parameters. So something is flawed in the picture. It can last, it's not sustainable, right? It served us really well for a few decades, making us a very powerful nation. But now the road to the future is really to start thinking differently about finance. That's where my business partner is working on. And I think it's still a very long road where you're gonna need to have many people working on a better financial model, financial system. So I think as of today, you have to be humble and say, okay, can I at least articulate the concept of impact, right? Can I start educating people, make them understand where we can move toward a better society?
So next question, I got brain lock. So for your company, you focus on 6 verticals.
Right.
Why did you choose these 6 verticals?
Where we evolve, we're constantly evolving, right? This vertical, I'm a poetic person. So initially I was like, I'm going to relate the business vertical to the 4 elements, to like air, water, or the earth, the wind, right? And then I was trying to derive from it with my business partner. And then we went way more practical, obviously. We started looking at United Nations Sustainable Goal, existing innovation, what are the more crucial needs. So when we came up with the 6 vertical, we identified potential area where we want to work on. Then the last 2 years, what we did is really refine as far as it's about finding the right technology, the right traction, making success story. So we have evolved into really looking more into what's the most urgent things to fix. Do we have technology, the readiness of the technology? Do we have companies that are interested that we think that we have a chance to scale up, right? So I think from there, it's constantly evolving. And if you look at our environment, it's constantly evolving too, right? Like the things are changing so rapidly. With COVID-19, like from an environmental standpoint, what's interesting is we're seeing like clear air, right? Like we tend to regenerate way less carbon, so the nature seems to be regenerating itself. But at the other hand, because we have to use mask, glove, single-use plastic is up to the roof. Once we're gonna get out of the COVID-19, the plastic problem is still the problem that we have is single-use plastic in the ocean everywhere is still there, right? So it's a matter of being dynamic and also understanding the market is shaping quickly, and how do you adapt and find the right solution?
So I think a lot of people would tell you that most consumers would prefer to go spend money with a company that's doing something good for the earth or good in general, right? Is this actually true?
I truly believe it is. But if you think about the world we live in today, right, there's a lot of, from an economic standpoint, people have to, on a day-to-day, we've built extremely strong consumer pattern. We're used to convenient things now. Everything has to be convenient. Go tell somebody, oh, you have to bring your Tupperware everywhere you go so that you don't use any plastic. That's nice, but most people, they have kids, they have jobs, they have sometimes 3 jobs. They want to do the right thing, but they can't, right? Because it just takes too many things to do, too many data. So the truth to success is really looking at how do you make it easy for people? Because yes, they want to do it, but are they really going to make the extra effort to do what it takes? that I don't know, right? I think we're getting to be more and more lazy, right, through technology, which is great. But I think the trick is to really look at how do you make it easy for consumers. And the beauty of the decade we live in, think about all the technologies that were developed, right? You have AI, VR, blockchain, big data, in biotechnology, amazing amount, the rise of biomimicry. So we're entering a world where we now have the technology to do so many things. But are we using it the right way? To me personally, I love technology, but I'm not interested in driving technology or on working with other people on the technology. That's not going to resolve the problem we have today. We're so far off having created a world that is not sustainable. Now it's the time to say, oh, we have this amazing amount of technology. We have people that are never been as smart as of today. How can we connect all these resources together and make a long-lasting impact, right? And I think it's gonna be an exciting time, because the next decade, you're gonna see a fight between the way we used to work, corporation doing business a certain way, and an emergence type of technology, consumers, where we should go, what we should do. And I think it's going to be an interesting decade to kind of see the change that are going to happen.
So talking about like AI, deep learning, machine learning, AR, VR, I think when most people hear these concepts of words, they don't think about the environment, right? How do you make that mind shift to have them think that no, these platforms can be used to help solve these problems?
So it's really interesting, right? Because I've noticed I live in, right now I live in Marin County, and a lot of people in Marin County have the concept that technology is evil because it brought all the problem. Well, you can turn it around, right? Technology is also connecting all of us together, bringing amazing solution in a planet. Think about solar energy. Why were we able to scale solar energy? Because through amazing technology, we were able to reduce like cost in 10 years by something like 90%. Suddenly it was cheaper than fossil fuel, enabling us to really start using a more sustainable, renewable energy. You see the same thing with the concept of AI, for example, right? Like AI is enabling you robotics, IoT, through IoT and AI, right? The concept of farming technology. You can be more precise. You can save resources. You can save water. You can, if you can be way more efficient. The concept of efficiency through technology in agriculture or in other domain or in supply chain, the concept of digital transformation, all of these are going to be enabling us to reduce carbon, reduce the resource that we use, and be more efficient. There's also an emergence of, we always talk about digital technology, and that's been like the trend. Silicon Valley has been extremely strong in that concept. That's how they became very successful. But there's also a beautiful amount of complexity in nature, right? Through biomimicry, biotechnology. Think about the microbiome, right? I'm working on a company, a microbiome, which is brand new type of ingredient for the gut. This is fascinating what we're finding about the microbiome, about the gut. We're finding that the microbes in our gut may actually be preceding some of the impulses that are in our brain. We're finding correlation between obesity and the microbes that are in our brain. But a lot of disease, a lot of psychological disorder between what is in our gut and the way we are. So I think in the future, it's a very interesting world that we're creating, because you're going to have, through AI, VR. For example, you talk VR. When VR was introduced, it was for video game. So I'm like, well, not sure if we really like creating a technology that makes huge impact. It's okay, it's allowing people to have fun, but does it make a huge impact for our planet? I was not that impressed, right? And then I went to the lab in Stanford, VR, where they were trying to create awareness for people for environment. They created this video where you under the ocean around coral, and you see the coral reef kind of slowly being attacked and depleted, and you feel it, right? And it makes you so much more aware. Like I can tell you for 10 hours trying to convince you about something that you're not really convinced about. It's going to take a long time for me to convince you about something if you already have your mindset on something. If I make you feel it, then the process to basically create awareness in people is greatly accelerated. And so through this type of technology, you can really create solution, create consumer awareness, right? Like people, like sometimes they just don't know. So how can you blame people if they don't know, if they're not aware of what's going on? Other things of the same, some technologies that are enabling us to create solutions that couldn't exist today for sorting, for example, right? You can do sort, like I live in Marin County again, and I have to recycle. And I have a PhD in microelectronics, and I can't figure out how to sort correctly, right? Like, is it plastic? Where does it go? And so on. That's where the use of technology is starting to be very efficient, because through AI, through robotics, through video recognition, you can start doing a better job at sorting and be able to create a circular model. So that's a great use of technology right there, right? So I think what you're going to see more and more is startup using the concept of technology, and AI, machine learning. All of these are really acronym. They all point to software programming, right? But we're just getting to the next level and getting more advanced. And so that can be used to define solution, very intelligent solution for a better future.
So how long have you been involved with startups?
Roughly, so I left corporation 4 years ago, roughly. So I've been working with a ton of startup, right? Kind of learning. A lot of them failed, right? To be honest. So you learn a lot about, I think you learn the best when you make a lot of mistakes. And from there, like, you realize, this is how it's being done, and so on. And, working in a startup world is I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs, because what I find out, I was used to be working corporation for 20 plus years, experienced a lot of different domains. And when I came at startup, I was like, oh, this is like this, this is like this, this is like this. But the variability in startup, every day you have something that happens. Every day you have to shift, you have to be dynamic. Yeah, there's things that are entirely out of your control that can entirely destroy your company. So it's a big lesson of humility. These people decided one day to create a company, to move it forward. It's very time and resource demanding. I met a lot of founders that dedicate all their day to all the time and resource to the company. Very passionate. So I think to me it's been a beautiful growth experience, not only in terms of business but in terms of people, because there's so much emotion. You really experience all type of reaction. I've experienced things working with startup that I would have never experienced in corporation, when it's all kind of like defined and protected, right? So it's a great life lesson as well.
Yeah, you bring a good point. People always say, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as like you learn no lessons, and learn from mistakes. Sometimes I'm like, I was talking myself. I'm like, man, I'm tired of learning, right? I'm tired of learning. I want to do something, right?
I feel the same. Believe me, at time I'm like, oh, is this so complicated? That's resilience, right? That's gonna make us successful. And I always come to Edison. You know how many times, there's a legend that say how many times Edison failed before he came up with an electric bulb? The legend say 1,000 times. I'm like, okay, I guess I still have way to go. 1,000 times, right? It's kind of a lot.
Can you talk some about your entrepreneur journey? Like, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur, and what your thought process was like that?
That's a really personal experience. So while I was working in corporation, out of the blue, I started having a very big amount of pain, a problem in my body at the shoulder level. And I tried for a few months to keep doing my job, to keep keeping my private life, to keep moving forward, and I couldn't. The pain was just like the I went to see many doctors, nothing worked. So I had to stop. And, like when I was pretty much defined by my career, I put a lot of me into that. And so when I find myself having to stop because I couldn't find a solution for my pain, even if I was stubborn and I wanted to keep going, I went back to France with family for a few months, and I worked all my life. I never took a few months off. So it was a good way for me to reconnect with my family also. And that gave me the time to think about, what do I really want to do? And I realized I was in a time of my life where I've always been close to the environment. I grew up in a little town. My parents were gardening, come from a strong lineage of land people on my and food. And so to me, it's something close to my heart. And I started really looking about, where are we going as a nation, as a society? And to me, it was clear that we're not going in the right direction. If we keep going that way, it's just destruction. We keep consuming way too much. We're not regenerating anything, and we're hurting this planet that is our essence, that is our root, right? So how do we do things differently? And I decided to go on a world trip as I was feeling a little better. And I'm not going to come back just the way I came, because it was kind of a tragic, really hard experience. And I decided I was going to go on a world trip. And I had two rules. The first rule was, I'm always going to go east, right? Because I have to get closer to San Francisco the whole way. And I'm going to move to places that are moving my heart, that are so very strong in history, very strong in poetry, kind of like to reconnect with this side of me that I kind of lost over the years working so heavily with technology corporation. And then as I was getting closer to my destination, I went to Greece, I went to Australia, I went to Turkey, I did Helene of Troy, I went to Troy, kind of like to have a little fun with it. And then I realized we have an amazing planet. We really do. And I met amazing people on this journey from all kinds, some very smart, some very simple, some farmers, some technologists, some artists. And when I came back, something has changed in me. I wanted to work on something where I could be an instrument of change. And, it doesn't have to be really big. We created this company, was initially 2 people. Now we have a few partners, and we're starting to have a few companies in our platform, and we're moving along. But the idea was to be, how can I become one of these instruments of change? Doing a little something, doing my part to change the world, right? In a better direction. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been really harsh. It's been challenging. I've experienced a lot of hard moment of deception, because, as you say, when we want to build something that's hard, we're going to fail. But this is also how we're going to grow, and we're going to become bigger people, right? Because we're inspired, because we work through something bigger than us. And I think it's been a beautiful journey. I got to meet you. I got to meet other inspiring people that, to me, it's just the journey in itself right there is beautiful. To find this community of people that have decided, we're going to do great business. We're going to do business, but we're going to do it in a different way that is going to promote better world, better society. And that's not only me, that's a movement that, the more I work in this area, like I'm attending an event next Monday, and I've already met so many people that think alike. And that's really interesting, because that's not what we see in a day-to-day, right? In a day-to-day, we see a lot of despair, we see and we're all wondering, where are we going? But there's another side to the coin. There's more and more people I decided to work constructively together toward a better future.
Did you do like a video blog while you were traveling?
No.
No. Any kind of blog or any documented text or anything?
No, it was kind of a personal journey, really. So it was like, I don't know if you ever have one of those when you kind of reconnect with things, and you gain better visibility. You know where you are, you know what you want. And I think, to me, that was that's what happened during this journey.
If you could go back in time to when you started becoming an entrepreneur, what advice would you give yourself?
be strong, be persistent, be resilient, be ready for it. Because, when I arrived, I was kind of like, I don't know if it was when you started your company, it was the same, but I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I plan it's going to be work perfectly. And I tend to be a little perfectionist, right? So I failed so many times, and I learned to be humble, thinking, well, okay, this is not, I guess it doesn't work that way, so I need to do it another way, right? And so I had some strong life lesson, and I think this is my lesson, is what's gonna make you successful is resilience and drive, right? Never lose focus on your mission. Don't listen to people on like what your mission is. If you're really convinced, listen to people to get advice and change strategy and so on when you need to, but it's about being focused and being resilient.
I think I read or heard somewhere that the only unsuccessful entrepreneurs are the ones who quit.
Pretty much. Well, it's like you stock, right? When you buy stock, as long as you don't sell your stock, you never lose money, right? It's always like you don't. It's the same.
So you've already talked about your company a lot, or some. Can you go into more detail about how the company started? What's your vision for the company, and how do you want to impact the world?
Well, right now we live in a world that is extremely difficult to move, because you have a lot of players, because we're all connected. So the platform, when we started, we were very ambitious. So we quickly saw that we had to be more practical about our approach. So the platform concept, and a lot of it is proprietary information, so I can't share too much. I spend a very large amount of time observing startup and developing mechanism and process that I think could be quite useful. But the idea is really, the concept of circle in group of people to support it, right? Like, I think it's the mass that is going to create a difference. So starting small, starting building success stories with the companies that we have on the platform, starting to educate people on impact investing, and I think more and more people are going this kind of work today. So it's all about connecting everyone and expanding. It's so much work that needs to be done, so much money to be making that space. I think I'm not. To me, I think it's about sharing, right? So I'm not like the concept of building very large unicorn. It's something that needs to happen for all of us. So we have an approach that is very collaborative, and it's about building success story, being practical, making an impact. And it's about finding the right scale, right? Like, as we starting this company is still fairly new, so we have got an amazing growth. But I think right now we're working on the field where we can make an impact and a contribution. And as we grow further, right now we're getting more and more people interested in us, in funding and in joining the platform. I think we will start reaching to new height and adjust from there. It's about having a growth that is organic, right? Because when you grow too fast, then you see what's happening in the market today. These companies that have grown really fast, but now they're breaking, because nature doesn't work that way. And maybe I'm going against the trend of Silicon Valley and other location, but any company that is going to be in business and going to last for a long time is a company that's going to grow sustainably, right? Not if you take too many shortcuts and grow too fast, you're not going to be sustainable.
And you also do some work for, and I'm going to butcher this name, but you do some work for the Biomimicry Institute. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't work directly for the Biomimicry Institute, which is like mostly research and looking at students and fueling innovation. I work to the business side of the Biomimicry Institute with a gentleman called Jacques Chirazi. And so the idea is, what you find in biomimicry quite often is extremely good idea, right? Technology, concept, and the next level is to commercialize it. And that's where a lot of very promising ideas don't make it. because the commercialization aspect is extremely complicated, right? It's like the idea may be great in a sense, but it may not be applicable as a solution for corporation in terms of cost, in terms of practicality. So that's when I started working with the Biomimicry Institute. Like I've been working with two companies now deriving from a biomimicry concept. One is an advanced material space. The other one is in the renewable energy space. Same thing, but these two companies, we were able to start commercializing them, right? Making them a reality. Because in biomimicry, as I say, you had a lot of work on the design and the material. If you look, not too many, and sadly, not too many of these ideas end up being product, being success. And that's kind of what we want to work on.
Hey, I forgot to ask you this during our pre-talk, but were you going to have like any kind of discount or gift or anything to give to the listeners?
Discount or gift? We're considering with a B2B platform, right? I think at that point, no, like we're gonna try to humbly do our part to create a better planet, and I think that's about it for today.
That's fine. And can you share your social media for you and your company so people can reach out to you?
Yeah. So right now, the website is wegrowgreentech.com. We haven't spent too much time on the social media piece yet. We're about to build an Instagram. So we're gonna be building this summer on Instagram site and a podcast to basically talk. The goal of this podcast will be to portray all these amazing entrepreneurs that I met every day, because I like to think of them as like these really hard workers working in stealth mode, that are not getting recognition or light, where really they're the true heroes, they're the true people working on the planet of tomorrow, right? Taking all the risk, spending all the resources, getting frustrated, but still moving forward. So I have a lot of admiration for these people.
And to our listeners, we'll share her social media links in our show notes. And you can find the show notes at www.cavnessexblog.com. And be sure to share this episode with your friends and everyone in your network. So we're coming to the end of our talk. Can you provide us any advice on wisdom on anything you want to talk about?
What can I say? We grow green tech. In it to win it. That's my new view. That's my new view sentence. So I adopting it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.